One of the first things you might want to do with Robopack is deploy an app. Now, as you've probably seen, Robopack comes with 40,000 applications ready to go out of the box, and we can deploy these with just a few clicks. In this video, we'll do just that. So from my Robopack tenant, I can simply go to Instant Apps. Now, I happen to know the name of an application that I want to deploy. Typically, most people do know which application they're hoping to deploy, and we can just search for it. We can either click in the search box here and type the name of the app, or we can head into Instant Apps, and we get these popular featured applications down at the bottom here. But really, just the search box is what we want to do. So we're going to start by searching for the application I want, which in this case is Tree Size Free. There it is. And this it's a great piece of software for checking the space available on your disk and checking the size used by applications and files and stuff. It's great for Windows devices. So we're going to choose that. If we scroll down a bit, you can see the available versions, and the only available version we have is version 4.7.3, the latest version available from Jam Software. Okay, great. So what do? Well, we've got three actions at the top here that we can use. We can analyze and build, we can import from the Microsoft Store, or we can set up a Robopack flow. Now, typically when you're deploying an application for the first time to your devices, you would prefer to test it on a couple of devices first. So that's what a Robopack flow will do. It will allow you to say that these devices will get this application first, and then this set of devices, and then the next set of devices, which really, as an admin, that's what I would do when I'm testing an app. I roll it out to my computers, then to my maybe IT team, and then to some testers for the application itself, and then eventually off to the rest of the estate, or the rest of the people who need it, at least. So that's what we'll do first. We're going to set up a Robopack flow. So we'll choose Setup Flow, and the flow name is created for us automatically. It's Tree Size Free. We're going to use the version 3.10.2 version of PS8ET, because it's the latest available in Robopack. And then we've got some options available for us to look at. Now, just to keep this simple, I'm going to not look at these options right now, and we'll talk about them in a later video where we're going to cover what these options mean and when you might use them. But just to show you how simple it is to just get that application created, let's choose Create Flow. And we have two actions at the top here. We've got Save and Start Deployment and Save Deployment. Now, bear in mind, we haven't created the Wave approach yet. We haven't told it which devices to install on, so we need to do that first. And so it's simply a case of choosing Add Deployment Wave, and we have Wave 1, right? So here we get to add the group of devices that are going to receive this application first. We'll choose Add Group, and it might make sense to deploy it to all devices in the first wave. Not usually. It's not the whole point of a wave, is that it builds to deploy to more devices over time as more testing has been done. So in my case, I'm going to go with application for groups. So I've got some pilot computers and test computers. The first group is going to be the test computers. So we'll choose that and add that group to the wave. And then we get to specify what success looks like for that particular wave of devices. In this case, response is set to 60%. And that means that if 60% of the computers respond and receive it and are online, then that would be considered successful, combined with 75% of those devices being successfully installed. So that's important, because let's say we have 10 devices in the group. If 6 of them receive the package, then that's good. And out of those 6, 75%, which is 4.5, so that would be 5. So if 5 devices out of the 6 that received it are successfully installed, then that wave would be considered complete. And once that's complete, that might be it. There might not be another wave that you want to deploy to. Typically, though, you would have this first wave being a small group of test devices like I've got here, and then the second wave being a wider group of pilot users who are going to be doing their normal job and not particularly testing things as a day-to-day task. They'll just be using their computers, and if this application is updated and works, then all good. That's how we consider a pilot. So I'll add that deployment wave and choose group, and I'm going to add in the pilot computers. There they are. And now of those, if we have 10 of those and 6 receive it, then 5 of those must install successfully in order to be considered successful. And then finally, we might have a third group that we want to deploy to all devices. And so there we go, we'll choose that wave there. And that could be the final wave. That might be, well, it probably would be the final wave because we're finished. So at that point, all of the devices in the estate would have that installed. Now, there is one more thing that we need to be aware of when we've used a Robopack flow in order to deploy an application. Now, when I mentioned that all of the devices will have the application installed at the end of wave 3, that is absolutely correct. And probably for tree size, that probably is going to be correct and stay correct for quite a while. But what happens when a new version of tree size is released and made available by Jam software? Now, because we've set this up with the defaults, some automation will happen on this application, and it's very important that you're aware of that. So from this deployment here, we've got this deployment of tree size free. We need to go back one. So we're going to choose the top trail here to get to tree size free. And this is a flow. Now, we created the flow when we created the app, so we're going to choose edit flow. And I skipped over these options so that we could talk about them in more detail. And when we have this top one selected, automatically upload and start new deployments, that tells us that when a new version of the application is released, it will be automatically uploaded to Intune and a new deployment started. With tree size free, that's probably fine, because when Jam software release a new version of tree size in a few months' time, it doesn't need to be updated that often, and they're not creating new features on the free version of tree size very often, I assume. When they release a new version, it will use the flow that we've already created. So because we got this selected here, I'll go back and show you what the waves are. It will deploy to my test computers, then the pilot computers, and then once they're all done and tested and working and all successfully installed, it will deploy to all devices. That's the point of automating software deployment. You don't need to constantly go back and check whether a new version of the application is available, because as soon as it is available, it will start a new deployment and release it to your devices. Okay, so now that we've configured which package we're going to deploy, we've configured which devices are going to receive it first, and then when devices are going to receive it next, then we can simply choose Save and Start Deployment. So we choose Save and Start Deployment, and that will upload it to Intune for us. So after a few moments, this application will be in our Intune tenant, and we can see that it's deployed to the first wave. Let's take a look actually. So if we head to my tenant here, and then choose Applications, and then Apps, Windows. Let's see if you've got tree size free. There it is. So that one now has just been created, because I definitely didn't have it before, and it is. Let's see where it's deployed to. So it's deployed to my application deployment test computers, and it'll be installed as soon as possible. As you can see, deploying an instant app through Robopack is painless and very easy to do. It's way better than trying to package it up and deploy it yourself, and the deployment is fully tested through that wave approach.